Up to 30% of all cannabis in the world, illegally being traded, comes from South Africa.
And you were one of the first people to move into the space of private social clubs in the cannabis industry in South Africa, right?
This has been a true South African story. You know, the money's been stolen so many times, but the beauty of it is it's turning around.
Is cannabis legal in South Africa to consume, sell and enjoy?
You guys must really enjoy 420.
What are we looking at for financial growth in South Africa if everything is the way that you would envision it to be?
Sure. My wife would also like to know that.
How's it guys? Welcome back to the Baascast. My name is Baas de Beer. This is my cast, and on my cast today I have got Kobus Schoeman. He is the founder, chief in charge, and as far as I understand, the main brain behind the organization called Grow One Africa. And this is him.
Hello. Lekker. Happy days.
Lekker. Welcome to the Baascast, bro.
Thanks a lot.
As I mentioned to you when we booked this thing, you were on my initial list of guys that I actually wanted on the thing. So it's been coming for like 2-3 years now already.
Solid. Solid.
Let me just put it out there. You are the founder of Grow in Africa.
Yeah, me and my wife started.
You and your wife.
Yeah.
And I mean, you were basically shall we say, one of the first people to move into the space of social clubs, private social clubs in the cannabis industry in South Africa, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, we were the first to be a service provider, I would say, to help people, to assist people to open clubs. But yeah, Grow in Africa is also quite a way down the line. We started a few other businesses before we got there. But yeah, that's basically our history. We opened our club in 2018, and since then I've been telling people how to do it.
That is epic. I mean, you know, that is how to grow a positive scene. And I must say, as a member of Grow in Africa Club, pretty much since the start of it, it has always been a thing for me to notice that especially the Grow in Africa Club seem to be a little bit more strict on adhering to rules and principles and legislation, and always try to be a step ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Let me just ask it this way. How much of a legal fundi have you become in the last few years?
Holy moly. I mean, we just wanted to get a bit of Zol and grow it ourselves, right? And didn't realize that I enjoyed reading so much, especially boring stuff like laws and whatnot. And I think it might have been that ultimate thrill of finding a way to actually do this, you know, that motivated me. But yeah, I've got no formal training in it, except for the last 7 years worth of school fees and self-study. But yeah, I had to learn a lot of new words in also a language that's not my first language, which is lekker. but yeah, what a privilege to be able to have done it. Yeah.
So, I mean, Grow in Africa starting in 2018, up until now, just for a quick recap.
Yeah.
How would you say the scene in South Africa differs cannabis-wise then versus now? And for that matter, while I've got you talking, tell me the role that Goa played in it.
Yeah. So just for clarification, Goa officially started in 2020. We started our journey with cannabis clubs in 2018. When we opened the Boomhuis in Oudtshoorn, we had more than 1,000 members sign up within 3 weeks. We had people driving from all across the country to come and see what on earth these guys are busy with. So I think, you know, to answer your question, how the scene has changed, it's changed from that excitement from a community perspective where everybody was interested and got involved. And I mean, a couple of months after we opened, the whole of Oudtshoorn smelled like cheese. Doesn't matter where you drive, every tunny was growing, everybody was experimenting. Since then, like most industries, you know, money and our economy has started playing quite a big role. So you've got a lot of money-hungry people that got involved in the industry and saw the sunrise industry. The role that we've tried to play was to bring in the ethics, you know. That's very important to me. Our whole company was built on the 3 ethics of growing the people, nurturing the earth, and Africa leading the way. You know, those are things that I'm really passionate about. And you mentioned earlier, we've got very strict compliance, and that's just so that we stick to these ethics. And there's actually nothing we enforce that is not required by either CIPC or SARS. We just offer people the opportunity to really run a legitimate business and be compliant to all of it. So where I'm seeing the industry at the moment, I mean, it's absolute free-for-all chaos. There's a map going around with close to 1,000 listed shops, clubs all across the country.
And we're not Goa clubs to be
No.
Just
Goa clubs. No,
every
we're a
second.
very small group. We're a very small player, actually. But because we've been open source with our information, we've been able to help a lot of people, or they've been able to help themselves with our information. And I really hope us sticking to our guns will now, prevail in the long term, because there's no other way. You're either going to do it right or you're going to do it wrong. And we've been trying to stick to the basics and the compliance since day one. So I'm sure when government catches up, regulation catches up, that's going to stand us in good stead. But at the moment, it's a bit of a free for all. I mean, it's open. It's what Thailand looked like a year ago. It's actually a bit of chaos. So I hope we didn't play a massive part in creating the chaos, but I hope we inspired a couple of people to start their journey in the industry, and at least give 1,200 people the opportunity to earn an income from it. So.
And hopefully not get put in jail for it.
Yeah, the jail thing is terrible, After this event, we're now on the border of Botswana. I'm driving down to the Eastern Cape in a couple of days. We still have a court case ongoing there with one of the cultivators. But these are things that get dragged out for a year or 2 years. The case never comes up. Nobody gets prosecuted. You just lose your life for a year, all the income, and then it gets thrown out. So, we're not scared of going to jail. We are, we're trying to build the industry, and we're hoping that people will not take advantage of the situation to, come and steal our stuff and lock us up unnecessarily. Yeah.
Well, that does raise two very important points for me. And the one is, obviously, I think there are a lot of clubs that pop up that put the entire operation at jeopardy, if I can put it that way, because they don't give a shit about compliance. They treat it like it is a corner cafe with chappies.
Yeah.
And essentially just taking street dealing, put it onto a shelf with nice lights.
Yeah.
What are the threats that you face as a legitimate I say legitimate, everyone claims to be legitimate, but as a legitimate organization, what are the threats that you face and that you feel the cannabis industry faces in South Africa due to callous clubs?
Yeah, that whole thing, club, it's easy to call yourself a club, but what is a club? So the fact that a real club needs to be something with a constitution, elected committee, something run by the community with transparency. The threat that the industry is running is people calling themselves clubs, and these days calling themselves Section 21 dispensaries, which is complete nonsense. It doesn't help at all with the stigma around this plant, because now all of a sudden we want to come out of the shadows, we want to bring this plant into the light, but the way people are doing it is now ostracizing us again from community, from the rest of society. A massive threat there is the corruption side of it. All these licensed facilities who can't meet their offtakes, dumping in the local market, so-called Section 21 clubs taking this and just punting it, like you said, the corner cafes selling chappies, For me, that waters down the value, first of all, of the medicinal side of the plant, because now anybody can just get a card for a backache, a neck pain, whatever, and you can kind of subscribe your own medicine. And it's ridiculous if you think of it. You walk into a pharmacy now and tell them you want some of that Schedule 6, some of that Schedule 4, up to your discretion. It'll never work that way. So the corruption side of it and people is really, for me, watering down the true medicinal benefits of it. And it's then obviously slowing everything down. Look at the recent Gazette where all hemp-containing edibles were banned. That cripples the whole industry. That breaks business plans for people who want to put plants in the ground now. So I feel that the complete lack of compliance that's the biggest threat, that it gets to a point where it can't be pulled back in, I don't think we're quite there. I think it could get much worse. And I really hope with events like we're doing today here, we can really bring government together and get this thing formalized.
No, I would definitely love to chat about today's event where we're shooting at. But first, I want to stand still. You mentioned the legislation and so on. I think there's still a lot of people that are confused between what is decriminalized, what is legal. Is cannabis legal in South Africa to consume, sell, and enjoy?
So that's a long sentence.
Yeah.
It's not illegal to have the plant. So I can possess the plant.
And the plant can possess you.
And can possess me. With a new act that came through, the Private Purposes Act, it actually narrowed the definition of cannabis. In the past, it used to be the whole plant. Now, cannabis is only, the flower is only referred to as cannabis.
Okay.
Now, we can have the whole plant, but we can't deal in cannabis, which means we can't buy or sell the flower. And what is ironic is the Cannabis for Private Purposes Act, in doing so, only opened up the hemp industry, because now it separated the flower from the rest of the plant, which is great. But without regulations still to be promulgated, we still don't know what the legal limit is. So now I can possess it, but nobody knows how much. There's no definite, we're not pushing for numbers or limitations, or kilogram or plant counts, but the lack of those rules means that nobody knows what's going on. So you can do anything with the flower except for sell it. That's pretty much it. And you also, for that reason, can't buy it anywhere. Which still leaves us in this vacuum. I mean, you can't call it a commodity, but you can't deal in it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But DTIC has been commissioned with the drafting of policy. According to the timelines from Pakisa, they should have something out by 2026. So we've seen some movement, but again, very much in isolation. Industry doesn't really, isn't consulted. So it's all, boardroom discussions happening on policy. But the long and the short is, if you are buying weed anywhere, it's illegal. If you're not getting it through your doctor, prescribed and dispensed by a pharmacist, then it is illegal. Simple as that. Where the clubs operate is we don't buy or sell weed. So we've got members cultivating for each other, and collectively we reimburse the costs associated with it. But yeah, it's been like this since 2018, and we'll see. We might have another couple of years before there's any clarity on that.
No, I mean, I'm just going to say it, and you feel free to tell me if this is something you want me to cut out, but isn't it all just bullshittery to say, listen here, we sell weed? Because, I mean, come on, let's be honest. The club system, I love the loopholes,
Sure.
But come on.
Yeah. It's a very difficult thing because you've got laws that you've got to work within, right? And we are currently operating within that law. So it is not as simple. I mean, contractually, we can, or legally, we cannot sell weed. So it's impossible for us to do that. If we could sell weed, this would have been a much easier exercise. I mean, then we would have just sold it. So, no, although our non-commercial model does not buy and sell weed at the moment, it is set up so that it could be enabled in future, right? Setting up the networks, getting the compliance measures in place. I think if our government sees the opportunity to see these pilot projects and to take from it, we could have used these as the so-called sandboxes to base policy on. So at least that's something positive. We recently got the endorsement of the DTIC for the IKS sandbox. A sandbox being an experimental period where certain models are tested so that policy can be developed with government oversight. Now, that's a very proactive step. If we were buying and selling weed, there would be no way for us to be to conduct research like this. Even after 7 years, no, we're still not selling weed. And I think the main drive behind it was not just to get weed out there. This thing also coincided with COVID. So it was much more a drive of meeting the community's needs, getting people together, creating opportunities for income generation. So much more than just buying and selling.
Where do we stand as South Africa then compared to the rest of the world in the process of legalizing weed? If you had to rank us on a scale of freest versus absolutely clamped down still.
Well, we've had some concessions, in terms of the decriminalization, the Privacy Act, those kind of things. But then with a blow like the health minister putting a ban on edibles, I mean, that just puts us like 10 steps back again. Yeah. So compared to the other countries, we haven't even started yet because there is no commercialization yet, So we still can't even rank ourselves amongst those countries, which is sad because unofficially, South Africa exports up to 1/3 of all cannabis in the world.
Okay, wait, say that slowly for the stupid ones.
Up to 30% of all cannabis in the world, illegally being traded, comes from South Africa.
What?
So there's, Now, our medicinal market has started. We've got over 100 licenses, but we've only got a handful of people that are consistently economically viable, doing economically viable exports, and that's the only market. So to say that we are far behind is not true because we're actually leading. But we don't seem to be able to formalize it. We can't bring the illicit market to the forefront. Hopefully this is what the sandbox can accomplish now.
Okay, but don't you think there's also a bit of a pushback from the underground market and so because
Sure.
suddenly they have to do what they've always been doing, but now pay fees
taxes.
and
Yeah.
say yes and thank you to people.
So this is interesting, 100%. Someone mentioned in the webinar yesterday that we are at war, and but it's not. It's a multi-party war, right? Because you're kind of stuck in the middle between the underground, between the entrepreneurs trying to move in now, between the industrialists, big pharmaceuticals, big food, the fuel industry, cotton. So there's so many role players that have a vested interest in this. So yes, it's definitely a daily battle. Any real black market, illicit market operator that's been doing this for years would have been stupid to come into the light at this point because they all know it's still grey. I think we've still got a while to go. And I really hope with the community engagement and specifically things like the sandbox, these people are included because that's the idea, to assess how they are already industrializing and just to formalize that. Yeah.
Okay.
But money talks, and there's big companies that are throwing around a lot of money, lobbying. Lobbying is interesting. It's the only legal way of bribing someone. So. And we see that a lot in the industry with policy changes and announcements overnight. So there's a lot of enemies in this, a lot of players.
And I mean, I can imagine there's also not just one side on the cannabis side. There's a lot of different guys. And I was thinking last night now about the difference between those who partake for religious or cultural purposes, those who see it purely as medicinal, recreational, certainly. I mean, anyone that says they just enjoy it, they just use it because it makes their stomach feel better. Okay, cool, buddy, I believe you. It also makes you feel lekker. Where do you find the most support for Goa coming from then? From the recreational guys or the people that are more, shall we say, for the other reasons?
Yeah, it's very dependent on the demographic, right? If you look at a club in a destination, let's say Harpiespoort, they would have a much higher percentage of members over the age of 45. These are people going away for the weekend, going to a destination, and then visiting a destination club. But those members' needs are different. So those members consume more oils and tinctures and balms. If you look at a club in Pretoria, in the east, then a lot younger demographics, a lot more stoners, So,
Skaters.
So the cool thing is, I think at the moment our oldest member is 86 or 88. We've got a few members over 80 across the country. And then the youngest members, obviously people come in there on their 18th birthday to come and sign up, But like I said, the whole club model is supply follows demand. So before products are being cultivated or produced, there is a member asking for it. So when a member signs up, they say, I need this for health or whatever the case is. So you'll see all the different things in the club. But I mean, the same edible that some of the gamers might take for their tournament is the same edible that the old Tanny takes for sleeping, So it's a very fine line. And even when analyzing the figures, it's very difficult. You only have the needs assessment of a member to go from to say whether it's spiritual, recreational, medicinal. But then when you see the actual sharing, was that pre-rolled for my fibromyalgia or was it for me just getting stoned, So it's it's
and I mean,
answer.
I don't see a fault either way with it.
Exactly.
I am sick and tired of pretending that, someone is allowed to go out and have as many brandewijn and coke as they want to. But you're a bad, bad person if you dare to smoke something. I don't know, man.
It was so in the beginning when the older people started coming into the club, I'll never forget this Tanny asking me. She said, well, I only use this for medicinal purposes. So I said, yes, Tanny, how do you use it? She's like, I've got this oil. It looks like Marmite. It came in a syringe and I have to take like a half a grain of rice. So I'm like, okay. She's like, yeah, but I don't want to, it's not to get high. It's just for medicine. So she looks at me, she's like, do you know people that smoke it? I'm like, Tanny, I smoke. She's like, what? She said, when's the last time you smoked? I said, well, about 15 minutes ago. She's like, it doesn't make you crazy. I'm like, Tanny, when you take that oil, does it take the pain away? She's like, yeah. I'm like, it makes you feel good, you know, it makes you feel relaxed. She's like, yeah. I'm like, you sleep well. She's like, yeah, I'm Tanny, you're the highest of all of us. And when that penny dropped and people realized, you know, the guy smoking his joint or the Tanny taking a medicinal oil, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's the same reaction.
Same reaction. Yeah.
I think you touched on something that I really want to move into is the public perception of cannabis consumers, stoners, dagga-kopper, whatever you want to call them. I think, and I've actually had a bit of an issue with a lot of campaigners for legalization when it comes to this. I personally feel the time of rushing around with posters might need to take a bit of a backseat. Screaming, shouting. I think we can get more done by having a decently dressed, well-spoken person elaborate on the, you know, scientific points, argue factually instead of emotionally. 100%. We still value and appreciate the people that held the banners and did people with posters.
Yeah.
But what is the biggest change still needed in the public perception of what a cannabis user is in South Africa?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there, you know. At the same time, while they're shouting about responsible use, they are hitting bongs at a parade with banners, you know, or they're having smoking competitions or edible eating competitions, or, you know, I mean, if a brandy company said, let's have a brandy drinking competition, I mean, it would be chaos. Like,
yeah, it's illegal, by the way.
Exactly. So the biggest, I always say the solution is in the problem. One of the biggest problems that we've seen is this industry has got a lot of passionate people and a lot of people that would sacrifice so much for this plant, but might not necessarily possess all the other necessary skills, business acumen, you know, trying to run a legitimate business. Because it's flippin' difficult to run a compliant business in our country. It's really not easy. Now throw in the fact that it's a product that you can't sell yet, it makes it even more difficult. So I think for the industry, unity is a massive thing. We all talk about Simonye, we are one, and the community and one behind the plant, but it's so fragmented. You know, people think that there's a train or a boat, and if they don't jump on now, they're going to miss it. And everybody's like getting in a rush and working in little silos and poaching ideas. So I think unity and then professionalism. Like really get your stuff together, man.
Start on time and all those things.
Yes, start on time, be there early, get it done, have the agendas ready, give the feedback afterwards, follow-ups. We're trying to build a new industry. If these are the foundations, then come on, man. So one thing that we really run a risk of, and we can see it, is the foreign interest coming in. You know, we're just fighting amongst each other, having rallies, nice posters, you know, dab competitions, whatever the case is, and then we are being overtaken in our own country. You know, we're being bought out. Our most valuable genetics already belong to overseas companies. You know, there's countries running around at the moment dishing out seed for hemp, and there's so much happening. And it's like we are doing the typical South African thing, standing around the braai and making a joke about it. You know? And I think the unity opportunity we have will not materialize if we don't step up, if we're not more professional. Make our own rules, man. I mean, come on, this is our time to change something. This is we can stop complaining, we can really change it. So this is our opportunity. Yeah.
Well, I always figure that, honestly, money talks.
Yes.
And eventually, if it gets to a point that government can see that, you know, look, there's really a financial incentive to push for full legalization, commercialization of cannabis and hemp for that matter specifically. What are we looking at for a potential benefit for financial growth in South Africa if everything is the way that you would envision it to be?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the impact is almost sounds too good to be true, actually. Like if you really start analyzing it. yesterday someone mentioned that there are something like 13 pieces of legislation and 8 government departments directly involved in the commercialization of cannabis. Now, can you imagine the issue to coordinate that, to get everybody on the same page? I mean, we've got so many not contradicting laws that depend on a next law. You can already be locked up for driving under the influence of cannabis, but you don't have a law yet saying how much cannabis you're allowed to consume, right?
Yeah.
So that we've got
or a
it's already
method to
happening.
test, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. So in the ideal world, we'd be sitting in 5 years on hemp plastic chairs. We'd be wearing hemp, proper hemp.
Hemp.
Hemp. And the impact is insane. I mean, the president spoke about 130,000 jobs to be created. You can do that provincially, every year if you do this right. And
Wow.
it all depends on the collaboration and making this work. It's such a difficult thing to start a new industry. You've got commercial farmers ready to put any new crop in the ground. They won't do that unless there's a processing facility where the stuff can get processed.
That's true.
Nobody's investing in a processing facility before they've got a market where it can go to. Right. So now it's like give and take, stop and start.
Eggs and chickens.
100%. So I think we're finding our flow, and I think government also now really focusing on indigenous knowledge and really looking into, I love that, a boer maak 'n plan, because it's all South Africans can make a flippant plan.
Yeah.
And the more that they're localizing their approach to this, the more collaboration we'll see. But it's not going to be, overnight magic wand solving all South Africa's problems. But it's definitely a spearhead crop that can open us up to start manufacturing again, to stop exporting only our natural resources, but actually to sell final products. And I think that's what we've got to aim for.
Okay, so not to just grow, but to actually cultivate, use it, as you said, sit on the hemp chair.
Exactly, and literally let those products leave the country. Why should we import machines from China to process our stuff when we can build it ourselves? Why should we export our fiber if we can make garments in South Africa and rather export the garments? So I think as soon as we get back into the mentality that we can do it ourselves in South Africa, then there's a lot of scope. Yeah.
Well, I think that gives us perfect opportunity to say where we are at today. There's a long name, but it involves talking about hemp.
Yeah. So the exact title today, I'm not quite sure. We're here at Nongo's joint in Gupani. It's very west of the Northwest Province. We're only about 30 minutes drive from the Botswana border. The event today is Nongo's, who's a permit holder. We call him the Dagag General. He's actually permit holder 0001. He was the first permit holder in our country. And today's event is a bit of a showcase to Department of Agriculture, to some of the universities, the Agricultural Research Council. We've got Training Force and Chiba here as educational partners. Just showing what is happening on the ground in these projects, because sure, it's been an uphill battle. If you can imagine, permit holder 0001, he was supposed to have had the best support from government, the best, infrastructure. And this has been a true South African story. The money's been stolen so many times. The contractors bring subpar products. But the beauty of it is it's turning around, and the general has been pushing, and this project's actually giving me hope to see how local government can get involved. I mean, the fencing that you see here, when I was here 3 weeks ago, this wasn't here. They put this up.
You can't see this on the podcast now, but it is brand new silver sprayed, what's it called? It's security fencing with barbed wire.
Barbed wire, proper fence, straight lines,
Straight lines, yeah.
The implements started arriving for cultivation. They've got a land race seed trial happening at the back here, where they're breeding local land races for industrial purposes. So, definitely a project to keep your eye on. They also today opened their social club, the Joint Zerist. So we'll be having a little bit of a opening there later today. And Nongo will then use this as the platform for education, bringing students through, other permit holders. And in addition to the hemp, they're also focused on food security. So you'll see they've got patches where they're doing trials on potatoes, local indigenous plants as well.
Okay.
So a lot happening here. But anybody that gets the opportunity to support Nongo's joint, please do so. Go and check them out online and follow them on all the socials.
Yeah. The entire thing about hemp fascinates me. My friend Apia told me years ago, and I'm talking probably 2014, 15, round about there, that he's certain that he can build a 3-bedroom house with a garage and a stoop for like 300,000 rand out of hempcrete, and then the ideas disappeared and everything went silent. And it's as if there's been a slow but steady uprising again in hemp ideas and hemp construction. And I know that he's also doing some demo today with a blowtorch and a hemp brick, just to show things. What should the average person know about hemp, and what makes it so awesome?
So first of all, cannabis is cannabis. Hemp, we talk about cannabis including industrial hemp. So if I say cannabis, I'm only referring to the flower. And in my mind, everything else is hemp. If I plant cannabis seeds far apart, they grow like Christmas trees, like everybody knows them. That's when they create flowers and seed, and they grow nice and bushy. And when I plant them like wheat close together, they compete for sunlight, they grow skinny and tall. And that's where you get a lot more fiber and herd, where you don't really focus on the flowers. So the tallest hemp building in the world is in Cape Town, South Africa, 15-story hemp building.
No way.
All of that hemp was imported from China.
No way.
So this is the whole economy of scale thing, right? The calculation more or less is 1 hectare of hemp can produce 1 80 square meter RDP house per 4-month growing season. So we did a quick math in the Western Cape. They need 1 million houses. They've got 1 million hectares of government-owned agricultural land not being used. So we're trying to see if we can't grow 1 million houses.
Grow 1 million houses in
4 months, right?
Oh my word.
But now it's easier said than done, because now you've grown 20 or 30 tons of biomass per hectare that now needs to be split up. Hemp has 2 very great components. It's the herd, the white stuff on the inside, and the fibers on the outside. Now, the main thing with hemp processing is to be able to split those 2 from each other. Herd is used for certain applications, like making the hempcrete bricks, and fiber is used for anything from ropes to twine and material, like with our word for hemp comes from as well. So it is possible to do all of this by hand, to process by hand. And that's a nice sound.
Let's try that one again.
It is possible to process by hand, to literally separate the fibers and herd, but it's a very labor-intensive kind of process.
I tried making paper once. I gave up about 20 minutes in. I'm like, nope.
So I think what people should know is that in the beginning phases, so beginning stages of the industry, there will be a lot of scope for craft and artisanal products. For example, processing fiber into making a 500 Rand sand and sole dog leash, for example, you know, because now it's something bespoke, something crafted. For you to make an affordable brick that competes with the current brick industry, you're going to need a lot of process, production behind you. So this farm that we're on, they will also be building a hemp house here. They've got a traditional Setswana design, like almost a rondavel, and hopefully from this season they'll start construction on that.
Are we going to be killed?
Hopefully not.
I think I therefore need to ask a very obvious question in my mind. If there's someone that, you know, just realized, wow, hemp is a way that I can make money. I'm a businessman, I've got money, I want to invest money, and I want to make money out of this hemp thing. They don't see it as a, you know, drug thing. They don't see it as a cannabis thing. It's a money thing. What's the first steps that a business should take to get involved in this?
Yeah, you're going to need brave businessmen, because There are very few projects that have a proof of concept and everything is working. There's still a lot of PowerPoint presentations going around for people looking for funding. I would get involved in projects like accelerate the programs with universities. We, for example, University of Johannesburg has focused on people with products in the industry and now are helping them to incubate that into a bigger product or a market-ready product. So for business people, I would say the biggest opportunities are in processing, definitely. There's going to be a massive shortage of hemp processing. We call them hemp refinement centers because for every 20 tons coming from a hectare, somebody needs to process that, right? Yeah. And before anybody can make any other fancy products, it needs to be processed. So I would get involved in processing and then get involved with the startups. I mean, I've seen prototypes of hemp batteries. They are literally making bricks that are batteries as well that link up to your solar system. I've seen plastic replacements, anything from cellophane and Glad wrap. So that's busy happening. It's happening in our country. And I think the opportunity is for people to get involved to help these entrepreneurs take that to market. The guy with the plan is not always the guy that knows how to market it or sell it or, put his product out there. So I think the business development side of it has a massive opportunity to get involved and help these barefoot geniuses, because that's what they are. I mean, all these people with these crazy products that they're making. On the flower side, on the cannabis side, you've got to be passionate to do that. As a business person, I wouldn't get involved before there's proper legislation, commercial trade, because I think too many people have lost too much money with smoke and mirrors and fake promises and things like that. But product development and processing, that's where I'm all in.
Yeah, one could imagine.
Yeah.
So hemp is legal to...
You need a permit to cultivate hemp. There's various permits. It gets quite complex because you need to grow with registered seed. You must also have an import permit to import seed. We will now in the sandbox have permission to grow with local landrace seeds, which is a big benefit. And then you just need to tick all the other permit requirements, which includes reporting to the Department of Agriculture, and you might get inspected. It's a pretty simple process. It's quite accessible. They've reduced the barriers to entry quite a bit for security measures. You used to have fences and cameras and stuff. That's all gone. And they've also taken away the hectarage limit. It used to be 50 hectares, and now there's no limit, which means the bigger farmers can start getting involved. And I think the most movement would be in projects that can feed themselves. People need to understand that, yes, there's 50,000 or 80,000 uses for cannabis, including industrial hemp, but you grow for a specific purpose. You don't start growing for fiber and then next week you're going to do grain and next week. So from day one, like I said earlier, if you plant them close together, they're going to be long and skinny. Further apart, they're going to make flowers. So yes, you can use all the byproducts for all these applications, but you've got to go for your main purpose. So one of the combinations that are starting to work is for the textile industry, linking up with animal bedding. So for example, someone growing fiber could be put into garments and the herd going to chicken farms. Then you can literally justify a processing facility for yourself or for your little community. But if you can't set up that whole value chain for yourself, then there is no value chain.
And I suppose if people want to get in touch with you regarding potential for business and investment, and so it's encouraged.
Definitely, yeah. Speak to us. I've always just been an honest guy, giving out the info. I've never looked for investment. We now actually have stuff that we can sell, like our decortication machine, the machine that processes the plant. So very happy about that. But get in touch. We formed WeWork Hemp at the end of last year, a conglomerate between Grow on Africa, the Karoo Foundation, and Nongo's joint. And we're more than happy to share all info we have. Yeah.
Now, I like to start ending podcasts with some sort of a sage life advice situation, something that you might have learned. And I know that, walking the path that you have, starting the journey, doing what you've done, it can't, it's probably not been sunshine and moons. What's the fucking thing?
Moonshine and roses.
Moonshine and roses and happiness and joyful thoughts and unicorns coming the whole time.
Yeah.
I need to ask simply one thing. What is your personal key to perseverance?
Sure. My wife would also like to know that. I actually don't know. I have a purpose. I wake up every morning and I know that there's something that I must do. I know exactly what it is. I know exactly when I'm doing the wrong thing. Then I can feel it. But my purpose is to help explore all the opportunities that are available. I can't sit by and see something go to waste or something being mismanaged without jumping in and trying to do something about it. So my perseverance is based on the fact that my work is not done yet. And I think that's about it. It has not been easy, but it has been so flippin' rewarding. It's been shocking, it's been sad, it's been the best and the worst, but it's been so fulfilling because it's flippin' worth it, man. You know, if I come to events like today and I see how a person can go from living in a tent to building his house up and to having a farm within 2 years, you know, then I'll keep on getting up every day and doing what I need to do. Yeah.
Guys, I love that. And I mean, hearing that from you, it really just emphasizes the passion that you've got for this industry and for the people, not just the plant, which is what I find very inspiring.
Okay.
Any closing thoughts from you that you need to say things? This episode will air probably in the 420 week. So, yeah.
Yes, amazing. Hopefully by that time, you know, you will have some new harvest coming off. It's also a great time where the new flowers are coming off. It's the first time in forever that 420 falls on Easter Sunday as well. So that is going to be quite an experience. We're actually having a little thing with our Catholic priest, Father Mark, in Oudtshoorn, to celebrate that. So you guys must really enjoy 420. And then, yeah, keep it responsible, guys. Let's stop complaining about everything in this country. Let's start fixing it, being the example that we want to see. And that includes in this industry, man. Let's get our stuff together. Let's do it.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
Back to work. Yeah.
Thanks for everything you've been doing, mate.
Bro.
Really appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for visiting the Baascast.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
If you've been listening, if you've been watching, thank you so much for sharing in this episode. If you found anything interesting and you would like to chat about it, there's a comment section pretty much every freaking way that we share posts like this, so you know what to do. I don't need to tell you. Last thought, if you wish to be part of the Baascast in some or other sponsoring capacity, get in touch. I do all sorts of cool things like tell people about your stuff. Why not? Anyway, have a good one. Cheers.
Happy days.
Dude, that was legend.
Lekker my bro.